Well, hello and welcome to the Paul Watson Project. I'm your host, Walker Bruns, and we're going to be looking ahead to another fascinating week of fantasy football matchups here in the Paul Watson Project. We're almost halfway to the playoffs, but some things are changing in the NFL. We got bye weeks. How are you going to take advantage of those? Anybody can still win this league. It doesn't matter what your record is right now. If you get hot, you can still win it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys are able to manage the waiver wire and manage your rosters with bye weeks coming in. Well, before we go ahead to week 6's matchup, let's look at the quick hits from week 5 with Jake Bellwood. Over to you.
Quick hits of the week.
Thank you, Walker Bruns, and these are your quick hits. Quick hit number 1 of the week, the biggest blowout of the week, going to Not My Chubby. Riding that Chubby to another big game, beating Asset Playground by a whopping 76.28 points. Good job, Ryan Long. Quick hit number 2 of the week, the under 60-point club. Partly not his fault, as he does claim he was in church, but 53.84 points from Asset Playground. Can it get any worse? I highly doubt it. Quick hit number 3 of the week, the best move or the best moves of the week goes to Say My Name. Yes, subbing out 3 players right before the 1 o'clock games, 2 of whom scored touchdowns, all of whom helped him get the victory. Good job, David Smith. The Come On Man of the week goes to Cool Runnings. We all saw it coming. Totally opposite of what David Smith did. Zach Tinsley subbing out a 30-point wide receiver, an 18-point QB, and dropping probably the most consistent player on his team in Josh Reynolds. Granted, he still would have lost by 0.12 points, but still, come on, man. All right, fellas, the week 5 players of the week. QB, Josh Allen, 36.16 points. Running back, Austin Eckler, 33.9 points. Wide receiver on Zach Tinsley's bench, Gabe Davis, 30.6 points, and tight end of the week. Surprisingly, Taysom Hill, 34.08 points, not a single reception. So in that case, I'm going to shout out to Travis Kelce, 30 points, 4 touchdowns. Fellas, it was a great week 5. Looking forward to week 6, and these are your quick hits.
Well, thank you for those quick hits, Jake. Always love looking back at the past week and seeing who the big winners and the big losers were. Unfortunately, I'm usually on the loser side of things, but things can change in the Paul Watson Project really quickly. So before we get too far, I'm going to let you know who our special guest is. And he's a guest who you've seen on this show before. In fact, you just saw him. His name's Jake Bellwood. He's one of the best teams in the league, one of the best managers in the league of recent past. So we're going to be having him on the show. Before we look into each of the matchups, let's go ahead and pass it over to our chief analyst, Travis Stouffer, to give us the breakdown of this week's matchup power rankings. Over to you, Travis.
All right, you guys, welcome back to week 6 and our power rankings matchups. Here we go. We got number 6, Cobra Kyler versus Cool Runnings. Number 9 versus number 11, Zach versus Alex. We actually have a live exclusive interview, and here they are. Okay, let's move on.
Number 5, Prison Mike versus Oh Fill My Cup. Number 1 versus number 10, Rob versus Zach Lane. Rob, 5-0, first place, feels good. Zach Lane, this is your last chance. Can't be 1-5. Get it. Number 4, Not My Chubby versus Roger Goodell. Number 4 versus number 12, Ryan versus Nick. Looking at the new Ryan here, 3 straight wins, looking to make it 4. Can he do it?
Number 3, Eckler, I Hardly Even Know Her versus Asset Playground. Number 6 versus number 8, Walker versus Austin. Now, Austin's in the playoff hunt right now, even with the losing record. But whoever wins this game will surely be in the hunt, and whoever loses will be left looking up at everyone else.
Number 2, Team Lamar versus Connor and Sound. Number 5 in the league versus number 2 in the league. Jake versus Jake in the Jake Bowl. Now, there's been a lot of talk here recently about Bellwood's squad, greatest team ever, nobody's gonna beat them, blah, blah, blah. Well, quietly in the shadows,
Jake Bozier's been putting together a season. One of only 5 teams in this league with a winning record. So here we go, coming into it. Is it another Bellwood victory? Or is it another Bozier upset? And number 1, Say My Name versus Cam $47 Acres. Number 3 in the league versus number 7 in the league. Travis versus David. This is David's second appearance on the number 1 matchup of the week. David's not supposed to be here. 2-3, 2 big upsets here lately. He's 1 spot out of the playoffs. But the big storyline here, you ask? Well, last offseason, David Smith made the controversial choice to fire his team manager after a championship appearance. And that team manager? That was me. You replaced me. I'm coming for you, boy.
All right, we got some good matchups this week. I'm excited to see what happens in the Paul Watson Project this week. I think it's going to be a big moving week. So let's go ahead and welcome on Jake Bellwood and look through the matchups for this week.
Jake Bellwood, welcome to the show. It's good to see you on here. So just want to get your thoughts. You've got a really good team this year. You think your team's going to keep it going?
Man, I sure hope so. I get nervous every single Thursday night, Sunday morning. I always think that my team's not going to produce. I mean, I've got a few players who are kind of boom or bust or have been at the beginning of the season, starting to kind of pull through. Other than Josh Allen, you all know I love me Josh Allen. I will always love me some Josh Allen, but I've got some players on there. Jalen Waddle's starting to, get on a little down run. And anyway, just trying to build my team up, give them the confidence they need, but hopefully we can pull it through.
I'm the same way. Thursday night, put on the game, I had a player playing, and, first play of the game, he gets a concussion. That's how I knew I was going to have a good week last week. All right, well, let's jump into the games for this week. We're going to start off here with Cobra Kyler versus Cool Runnings. I want to hear your thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah, what can we say about these two teams other than what we've already said thus far? Boom or bust. We've got some good playmakers on both squads, with Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones on the Cool Running side, and then Kyler Murray and Pittman on Cobra Kyler's side, but they just don't seem to show up every week. Starting with Cool Runnings, he set his lineup really well last week. He set his lineup really well when he played Connor and Sound, go figure. But since then, it's just been up and down. Again, boom or bust. Aaron Jones is always up and down. That's why I didn't draft him. Joe Mixon's been the same way this year. But, honestly, Justin Tucker, by far, his best player. I feel like a 20-point game coming up from Cool Runnings. And then Cobra Kyler, big players, Kyler Murray, Pittman, Thomas, and then Hall showing up. He's got a good squad. I think he's going to win a few more games before the playoffs come. Could do pretty well. Could sneak in the playoffs, I guess. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, interesting that you think there's even a good team in this matchup. When I look at these two teams, I don't really look at them and say this is a good team. But when I look at Cobra Kyler, can he get some consistency from somewhere in the lineup? Ramondre Stevenson, is he the answer to this team? And then you look over at Cool Runnings. It looks like a team that needs to make the right play QB this week because he's got 2 guys on bye, so he's going to have to pick up the right guy. But I think we talked about the boom or bust. I think this is the week his running backs both boom. I've got a good feeling about this team. Let's go on and look at our number 5 matchup. We've got Prison Mike, who's towards the bottom of the standings, versus our undefeated Oh Fill My Cup, what you see here.
Yeah, so honestly, I personally, and I told you this earlier in the day, I personally think that this could be the number 1 matchup of the week. I think Prison Mike, he's got a good team. Unfortunately, his best player that he stole from Connor and Sound in that blockbuster trade deal a couple weeks ago, Damian Pierce, is on a bye week this week. Think with that and knowing that Olave and Higgins are both potentially going to be sitting out this week, one going through concussion protocol, and T. Higgins is, I think he has a sprained ankle. I really hope they pull it through because if they do, he is definitely going to give Oh Fill My Cup a run for their money. with Jalen Hurts. Hopefully Harris pulls it through this week, and Tony Pollard. I think he's got a good squad. And then obviously, fill my cup. Big breaking news, obviously, this week is that Henry is on his bye week. So if there's ever a chance for Prison Mike to get a win, it's this week with one of his best players on a bye week. But with that being said, Jackson, Cup, and now even Sanders. Those are big players. I think even with Henry on a bye week, fill my cup has already shown that he can produce without Henry playing. The first 2 weeks, I think he only scored like 8 points both of those games. So, he can do it. He's got a good squad even with a bye. So we'll see. This is going to be a good game. Probably my favorite game this week.
When I look at Prison Mike, I think this is a team that's finally primed to make its run. Najee Harris has only had 1 touchdown this year. I'm thinking he goes for 2 this week. And then fill my cup. This team's undefeated, but it's really still early in the season. We like to think, this team's unbeatable, right? But it's only 5 weeks. And there's not a lot of depth on this team. So as you mentioned, the player's out this week on a bye. It's going to be interesting to see if he can continue to get tons of production from the only 2 players this week. Is that enough to put him over the top?
But he's still got
All right.
Sanders. You don't know. Sanders has been pretty good this season. He's had some good weeks, so you never know.
You never know, but he's really not been relying on Sanders to put him into that top. All right, so now our number 4 matchup is Not My Chubby, and he's going up against the Commissioner Roger Goodell.
So Ryan's team, a.k.a. Not My Chubby. I just want to say, Ryan, I'm glad I'm not having to manage my team and your team this season. You're doing a very good job. Just kidding. I feel like people are taking that way out of context. I think I might have helped him maybe once or maybe up to like 5 times, the last few seasons. But I'm just kidding. But no, I think Not My Chubby. Dude, he's got a great team. I don't think anyone is on bye this week for him. He's got his starting lineup all starting. Herbert obviously is playing really well. Lockett had a balling game last week, I'm pretty sure. Evans, has been showing up every week. Except obviously for the week that he got in trouble. Fournette, Chubb, Kittle. He's got a great team, all-rounded good team. And then Nick Lane, Roger Goodell. I don't know. He has one of probably my favorite player this year in Saquon Barkley. Definitely got the better end of the deal when he traded with you early last week. Gibson's not been too great. And now with Brian Robinson back in the lineup, I don't see much being produced from him. Sutton, he's up and down. Mike Williams the same way. You never know. Keenan Allen might be showing up this week, so you don't know if he's going to have a good game. And then Geno Smith, potentially his best player. Who knows? He could surprise us and beat Not My Chubby, but I'm not riding that. I'm not riding that train.
Looking at Not My Chubby, this week he's got a lot of tough matchups. We're going to see whether this team is fact or fiction. I think if this team scores more than 110 points, this team is for real. I don't know. To me, that 110 mark will really tell me a lot about Not My Chubby. Then looking at Roger Goodell, looking for a big week from Geno. Well, guess what? You're not going to get it. I'm sorry, man. The big game is going to come from Mark Andrews, though, but isn't going to be enough to push you over the top. I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's for the games to be played. Moving on to the number 3 matchup, we've got Eckler, I hardly even know her, versus Asset Playground.
So I'll start with you, Mr. Asset. Last week, I wanted to put you in my come on man with that trade. But I guess in the sense I did whenever, JT was the come on man of the week last week. So Jonathan Taylor obviously is a great player. You've got the number 1 fantasy player from last season, or running back on your team. If he starts showing up, or like we know he can, then, your team is going to be good. You've got 2 fantastic wide receivers in Lamb and Chase, 2 great running backs in McCaffrey and Taylor. I hate that Williams went down for you. Obviously, I hate it for the Broncos as well, one of their best players. Obviously, their coaches weren't playing him right, but neither here nor there. But, you got a good team. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence can pull it through for you. Once you get a good QB, I think you'll be well-rounded. As for Eckler, he's got a great running back in Eckler and a great tight end in Kelsey. I'm not too sure about Dillon. I mean, he's been splitting carries with Jones a lot this season, and he's kind of been boom or bust. And then his wide receivers, man, I don't know. All of them are pretty up and down. McLaurin and Cooper and even St. Brown so far this year. Unfortunately, St. Brown's on a bye. So, that could be the sneaky win that you might be able to get because of that, because of St. Brown being on a bye. You've got your full-strength team. Hopefully Bateman can show up, but you never know. I think it's looking good for you this week.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves with the predictions, but I see where you're leaning here. When I'm looking at Eckler, I hardly know her. Kelsey, huge week last week, but I think Buffalo probably hones in on him and tries their best to not let that happen a second game in a row. So I think he's going to come down a bit on his points. He'll probably still have a good game because he's Travis Kelsey. Like, you're not going to stop the guy. But I don't think he's going to have a monster week. I think Zay Jones, he has him in his slot right now in the flex spot, but he's going to have a big week. There's only one problem with him having a big week, and that's if you look at who his quarterback is, that's Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big week because Zay Jones has a big week. I'm finally going to get a quarterback to give me 20 points. For the first time this season, all right? The question is, for me, who's actually going to be playing this week? Because still a lot of questionable guys, and they don't decide to announce that they're ready to go until, church is over. So I have no idea. All right, so we're going to move on to our top two matchups here. Our number 2 matchup involves yourself. It's Team Lamar versus Connor and Sound.
So the Jake Bowl, a.k.a. the QB Bowl. You've got the 2 best QBs in the league, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, and they're playing against each other. So I'm hoping it's another matchup like it was for the playoffs last year whenever they faced each other. Big game, high-scoring game, I hope. I don't know. Between those two, you never know what could happen. But the rest of the teams, Connor and Sound, I mean, my team's – I always look at my team and I think, it looks good on paper, but in reality, you never know. Like, Dalvin Cook hasn't had a good year. Alvin Kamara obviously has been injured. He finally had a breakout game last week, but who knows what's going to happen with him. Jalen Waddle's been on a decline ever since Tua went down. I'm hoping that Teddy comes back in the game and gives him a lift that he needs. My tight end's on bye, Hawkinson's on bye, and then Devontae Adams is on bye this week. So I've got a little bit of down there, but hopefully my backups can pull through. And as for Team Lamar, I mean, he's got a solid team. Again, Patrick Mahomes, definitely second best quarterback in the league, if not, right next to Lamar Jackson. A.J. Brown's been good. Both of his Browns have been playing really well. I think A.J. had a down week last week, but that just means he's in for a boom game this week. Elliott and Robinson, they've been iffy, but, you never know what could happen with those guys. I think they've got some pretty solid matchups in Philly and Indy next week, but then he's got, Higbee and Metcalf. They have been showing up really well for their team in the last few weeks. So, again, this is a toss-up in my opinion. I want to say I might have it, but honestly, I couldn't tell you. This is going to be a good game to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, this is a quarterback matchup for the ages, and it's so cool that they're actually playing each other in the actual game and in our fantasy league. I think that's super cool. But I think when I look at Team Lamar, a team that's finally run its course, and I think we're going to see a poor showing this week. The wide receiver and running backs, I think, are just too weak. When you look at Connor and Sound, as soon as cracks might start to appear in the lineup, it seems like a stopgap just seems to turn up. All of a sudden, Dalvin Cook, the other guy from the Saints, I can't even remember his name,
Kamara.
They both come in, and they just – can they keep it going, or is it a one-week wonder? I guess we'll find out. And then coming to our premier matchup of the week, our number 1 matchup is Say My Name versus Cam, $47 acres. Give me the breakdown here.
Yeah, man, I don't know why this is the matchup of the week, but we'll go with it. Say My Name, he's got a sneaky team. Last week, man, well, definitely a good job. Jacoby Myers coming in the game, and David Montgomery last second, and even Robbie Gould. He made some big moves, and it pulled off well for him last week. I don't know if it's going to happen this week. Again, Tyreek Hill, he's going to need Tua or Teddy Bridgewater in the game to really give him that huge game that Tyreek could have. Joe Burrow, he's always iffy play this year. I mean, he's had some good games and he's had a lot of bad games, so I don't know. And then, just his team all around is just, can it pull it through? And if it does, they have a chance of taking Travis's team down. So going to Travis's team, I mean, he had a not so great week last week. Diggs had a good game last week. It was hilarious. CEH finally pulled a CEH, as we all know and love. Had a normal game for him. I think the trade talks with CEH might be coming to a close. Maybe not, but I don't know. I kind of think McKinnon is gonna start seeing a lot more touches from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But the rest of his team is good. He's got a great receiving core. He's got a good QB in Tom Brady. If he doesn't pull in the refs on his side, that random call last week was definitely a bummer to see. But regardless, he's got a good team. It's going to be a good matchup. So we'll see what happens.
Our chief analyst has pronounced this as the premier matchup of the week, but I don't think it's because there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. In fact, this is going to be the lowest total scoring in the league. That's my prediction here. For Say My Name, it's been a fun run, but I think the fun is over. There's just not enough weapons on this team, if any. And then you look at Cam $47 Acres, another team that's just going to really struggle to score this week. The only thing to watch here in this matchup is whether the refs allow Tom Brady to fall to the ground without a flag being thrown. And that's really all I've got to say about this matchup. So, thanks for joining. We're going to get into our predictions, but first, let's be joined by our chief analyst, Travis Stouffer. Let's get into the games. All right, Travis, well, welcome to the panel. Looking forward to another week of predictions. Before we get into it, let me just do a quick update on the standings for each of the picks here. So, Yahoo's sitting after a decent week at 16-14 on the season. Our guests, led by Austin Stouffer last week, still not doing so great. 13-17. Jake, hopefully you can bring that up for us. Travis and I are tied at 18-12. So doing pretty decent in there. It's a run down, but it's only 5 weeks in. We'll see who can pull away here. We're going to start off with Cobra Kyler versus Cool Runnings. Yahoo sees this one as a Cobra Kyler victory. Jake, who do you got?
So this is the boomer bust matchup of the week. I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, if Aaron Jones actually has a boom game along with Joe Mixon, he might be able to pull it off. Cool Runnings, but I've got Cobra Kyler.
I think there's a couple of teams this week that are going to turn a corner in a major way. I think we've got a couple of 1-4 teams that are going to make some big changes, and Cobra Kyler, in my opinion, is one of them. I think some injuries have actually elevated his squad, and I'm going with Alex here. I like him.
I've got Cool Runnings. Come on, Zach. And the reason why is he has to pick up a quarterback this week. Listen to me right now. When you listen to this video, if you start Bailey Zappi this week, you win the game. All right, let's move up to our number 5 matchup. We got Prison Mike versus Oh Fill My Cup. Yahoo says Oh Fill My Cup. Jake, who you got?
Yeah, so Oh Fill My Cup's best player is sitting out this week on a bye week, big old Henry. Unfortunately, Zach Lane's team has some big question marks with Olave and Higgins. Could be out this week. So because of that, I'm going to have to go with Oh Fill My Cup.
I actually think Oh Fill My Cup's best player is still playing with Cooper Kupp. Actually, I think his 2 best players are still playing. I love him. This team is great.
I guess that means you're picking Oh Fill My Cup. I'm going Prison Mike all the way. We're going to see the turnaround when the season starts today. Prison Mike's got it. All right, moving on to the next matchup. Not My Chubby versus Roger Goodell. Yahoo sees this one as Ryan's 4th consecutive victory. Not My Chubby. Jake, who do you got?
I didn't mention this in the rundown just a little bit ago, but Roger Goodell will not have one of his best players in Josh Jacobs, and I think because of that, and because Not My Chubby will have his full team this week, I mean, Ryan's new team is by far showing some class. I think they're going to have a big win this week against Roger Goodell.
This is my upset of the week. I like Roger Goodell here. I don't know. I think, now here's the key. He's got to get Russell Wilson in that lineup. I think Russell Wilson has something to prove this week, and I think him and Cortland Sutton have a big game. I like Roger Goodell.
We'll see if you got that underdog magic in your picks, because I'm not seeing it. Not My Chubby's got this one. Let's move to our next matchup. Eckler, I hardly even know her, versus Asset Playground. Yahoo sees this one somehow as an Asset Playground victory. Jake, who do you got?
I would say that Asset Playground is the underdog in this game. And honestly, this is my only game where I've got, in my opinion, an underdog winning. I've got Asset Playground winning. Again, that it's a big if. If JT plays, JT's going to pull it off big time for you, Walker. Asset Playground, I think, is going to show up this week.
I like Eckler. I hardly even know her. I think this team is starting the surge. I think we're going to expect some big things here.
Yeah, agreed there. Eckler, I hardly even know her. He's got this one in the bag. Number 2 matchup, Connor and Sound versus Team Lamar. Yahoo sees this one as Connor and Sound with the resounding victory. Jake, do you see yourself winning?
This is one of the biggest games of this week, again, because of the QB matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Not only playing against each other in our fantasy league, but playing each other in real life. We all know the storyline that happened last season in the playoffs. Huge game. I'm looking for another huge game from those two. I do have Connor and Sound pulling it off again this week against Jake Bozier, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, these running backs are special. This quarterback is special on Connor and Sound. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is great too, but I think whatever he does, Josh Allen's probably going to cancel out. I like Connor and Sound.
How do you not like Connor and Sound? This is a clean sweep and an easy pick for the panel here. All right, except for I guess Jake somehow didn't see this as an easy win, but I think the rest of us see why it's an easy win. All right, number 1 matchup of the week. Manager versus former manager. We got Cam $47 Acres versus Say My Name. Yahoo says Cam $47 has this. Jake, who's got it?
Honestly, this is the easiest pick of the matchup, or of our fantasy week this week. I mean, I've got Cam 47 Acres, kind of winning big against David's team.
If you look at DJ Chark, his status is out, which is what David Smith did to me. He kicked me out after a championship run. All right, I was right at the doorstep. And if you look at Keenan Allen's status, he's questionable. I think that was a questionable decision. And then that takes me to Damian Harris, who's doubtful, which is what I feel about David's team this week. Doubtful for the victory. Cam $47 Acres. I'm smoking this dude.
Interesting pick. So I don't know why, but for some reason, David Smith wins this game. Say My Name takes it again for second consecutive victory. All right.
Oh, shoot.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for our picks. Hope we have a fun week out there. Enjoy the games.
Well, that wraps up our show here at the Paul Watson Project. We've got another week to look forward to. It's going to be a mover and shaker week out there. So make sure you're prepared this week. As always, I do want to thank my guests, Jake Bellwood and Travis Stouffer. They're doing a great job settling into their new roles here on the Paul Watson Project. So make sure you tell them what a good job they're doing. I look forward to seeing you guys out on the gridiron this week. See you soon.
The Paul Watson Project.